masters of horror.
Welcome to the Scariest Things Podcast, your gateway to the tropes and trends of the horror genre. Today, we have a very super duper extra special guest, Bomani J Story, who is hot on the heels of a film. I'm gonna say it right now, probably one of the best horror films of 2023, The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. Welcome.
Hey, thank you.
So I met you at South by Southwest for a hot second. It was interesting because you had a huge group of folks there, and you guys were really hyped to be there. It was funny because I stood in line for like 2 hours with a press pass. They couldn't guarantee that I was going to get into the film. And at the very last moment, one of the great folks at the Alamo Draft House came out and said, "We have room for one more person." And I was the guy. I was the last guy.
Man.
And this other guy tried to swoop in and say, "Oh, I'm going to take the seat." And I was like, "The hell you are. I am seeing this movie because I know it's going to be good." And it is. It is a great movie. So tell us a little bit about the film and kind of how you came to one of the most vaunted horror properties ever.
Oh man, I mean, it was it's kind of cliche story, I mean, but it starts with the literature, man. Like, I read the book and was floored and loved it. Like, gave me anxiety, and so I was like, I hope I can give a little bit of that to people too. You know, I just knew that I wanted to do something with it, and I felt like if I could just capture 2% of what Mary Shelley did, I would be in a strong place. You know. So yeah, definitely just started with the literature, and my muse were my two older sisters who shepherded me through all my life, and I mixed all that together, and here we are.
Yeah. Well, so I'm actually jumping ahead a couple questions for me, at least. I'm super curious how you leaned your way into horror films, and it sounds like maybe your older sisters kind of pulled you along, or did you have like an aunt or an uncle that sat you down to watch, Dawn of the Dead when you were 10 years old, and you said, this is it?
No, man, my big sisters kind of just would put scary shit on to like terrify me as a kid. They're tormenting me, and it's like, and then like it just sort of just started kind of growing because I was like, oh, okay, so they're terrifying me with like Nightmare on Elm Street and like Leprechaun and Child's Play, right? And then I just kind of started getting interested. And then I went to go see The Sixth Sense and was just completely terrified. And my aunt and uncle took me to see it in theaters because they didn't know what the hell was going on. They just took me to see the movie I wanted to see. And I was just like horrified the whole time. And they were like, "You want us to take you out?" And I was just like, "No, I want to start and finish it," right? So I watched the whole movie, and then it just kept growing, my thirst for watching it. And then, I started getting into the classics of like the Halloweens and the Friday the 13th, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and like Martyrs, and just all sorts of stuff. And like just started really getting involved in it. So it was really an emotional journey. And then to cap it all off, I literally found out like 3 months ago. I was talking to my big sister, and she was like, "Yeah, I don't really like horror." I didn't really. I was like, "So you just traumatized me with it?" The fuck?
So what was, did you have horror in your mind when you applied to USC Film School? Was that kind of always like creeping in the back of your head, or was it like, no, I'm going to go to USC Film School, and learn the trade and figure it out from there? Or was there a subversive element where you're like, oh no, I'm going to learn the trade, but I'm going to apply this great trade to the horror genre?
Well, no, I mean, like I came to film late in my life. I think
Hmm.
around 18. A lot of other people I talked to were kind of enthralled with it in middle school and like
Sure,
being
sure.
for that. But me, like I came real late. You know, I didn't really even have my own camera until I was like, 20 or 19 or something.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, like I was just like there was stuff I needed to learn. Like I just needed to learn, and I wasn't even really in like film storytelling proper at first. I was
Hmm.
just, filming what you want to call like sports videos, highlight reels
Oh,
and
sure, sure. Hmm.
stuff, right? So for me, like USC offered me the opportunity to learn about the craftsmanship of it. And those things. So I needed to learn some of the fundamentals and things like that from school, which they definitely gave me, but my taste for horror was always there. I can't say there
Hmm.
was some kind of master plan. It was just like while I was a kid, I was like, I need to learn about film because this is really interesting and I love it. So let me learn as much as I can, get as wide a scope about learning about films as I can.
Yeah. 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 So, okay. So going back to the film,
Mm-hmm.
the cast. I'm telling you, the cast. There is not a weak element in this cast.
Thank you.
Was it all dumb luck, or did you have this like, did you know some of these folks, or have them in mind? Because I ran into Leia
Mm-hmm.
Hayes,
Mm-hmm.
who plays Vicaria, Dr. Frankenstein in this case. Uh, I ran into her the following day and I saw her on the street and I heaped a bunch of superlatives on her and said, "You are really incredible." I think she was shocked. Or either that or she thought I was crazy, but I was like, "You did a really, really great job. I mean, you brought this whole film along, but the rest of the cast is also really, really incredible." So how did they all kind of come to this?
I mean, really, it's like so our casting directors and really brought in a strong pool for people to audition because everybody auditioned except for Chad Coleman. I've been a fan of his work for a while, so like it just so like there.
You're
But
in.
yeah, right. But everybody else like they just came in and auditioned and were just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Leia's first audition when she came in and like she just smacked it out of the park, and just was and had the endurance and had all the tools and just her interpretation of it was just fantastic. And
Hmm.
Zell, the more we worked together and peeled back the layers, I could see his brain working and like, adding and adding and adding on top of it. And
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
and Keith was just so, incredible with it. And Amani was so inventive, right? Like this was
Hmm.
her first movie, and she was
Yeah.
just bringing so much to the table during the audition. And I said Riley, right? So power, right? And it's like, and even Ellis, like he was great, and Beth, like and, and Dale, like it was just like it was crazy. It was almost just like the planets were just like constantly aligning, and like and we till we got to like the final piece really wasn't even Edom who played the monster. He was great. And then when the final piece landed, which was Chad, he's the kind of the last one to kind of be
Yeah.
cast in this thing. I was just like, I was looking at it and I was talking with one of the producers and I was just like, oh, like the superpower of this movie is the cast. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
knew that immediately. I was just like, oh, like if so before we even started shooting, I was just like, this cast that we have is incredible, and like I've seen their work, in the audition. I've worked with them, and like if we're able to capture any of that here, hopefully we do. I'm gonna work hard, but the superpower is the cast.
Yeah, they really were. Well, so the other superpower I found was that a lot of films, they, as you know better than I, they try to heap too many like storylines into the film, or they don't, they heap them on and they can't balance them.
Mm-hmm.
This to me felt like it felt George Romero-esque in that there was commercialism, there was late stage capitalism. There was, community dependence upon itself. There was law enforcement. There was, addiction and trauma. But they all were able to kind of balance together. And again, I've seen plenty of films where it's like, they put the emphasis or they put the accent on, one of those elements, and then all the other elements just get kind of a light treatment. How did you come to this script, and how did you balance these things so deftly?
Well, thank you, man. It's like I wish I had like a very succinct answer for that, but I really think relying on the fundamentals of like storytelling are what are like it always pays off. It's very boring, but like but those fundamentals always pay off to me. It's like when you're following a character that you buy into, which I hope people are able to buy into her and like her, and
Totally.
Also be weirded out by her. It's like yeah. I'm a huge believer in, I can't think of a movie right now, but I know like I'm a huge believer in like once you are able to anchor someone in something, it doesn't matter whether it's a character, idea, or whatever, and you're able to kind of anchor on. It's just like you could take them wherever you want to go.
Right.
Soon, you know what I mean? As soon as you have that, it's just like outside of jumping the shark, but like as soon as they buy into it, it's like I feel like you can take the audience wherever you want to go.
Yeah. So speaking of taking the audience wherever you want to go, I'm not gonna, no spoiler alerts here. The end is a little divergent from the Mary Shelley story. And for folks who don't Mary Shelley story, there's no spoiler alert there, but it leaves a little room open for maybe there's a glimmer of hope for a Frankenstein to the return of Vicaria. Is that maybe was there purposefully maybe a little room left open at the end of the film?
Like look, I love the type of stories I love are ones that can give you some closure and leave you with thoughts after.
And yeah.
You have some kind of imagination after, so I can't answer that question honestly. It's like
okay.
It's like I can't really like kind of go into that, but I can say that I love stories that give you a sense of completeness while also leaving your mind open at the same time. You know.
Yeah. Okay. So on that note, what is the it's interesting because this isn't a direct remake of Frankenstein, and for those folks that are listening or watching, I guess it's please rest assured it's not this is not Boris Karloff, and you're not going to see It's Alive per se. But what is the do you have any thoughts on the future of the Universal monster, and or do you see any other horror films out there that deserve to be remade maybe? And are you the guy to do it?
Yeah. No, it's like I got some ideas,
Okay.
I'll say that. I got some ideas, we'll see if they're just ideas right now. They have to develop into a strong story to me, but like, I got some ideas, but for now I'm just like I'm just enjoying this. And it's like, obviously there's a bunch of tales out there that can be tapped for a lot of different ways. And so like and be explored. There's a reason why these stories have stood the test of time for so long. And it's because Mary Shelley being one of them is such an incredible and impactful writer,
right?
And so and her themes were so resonant. So I think if you have the wherewithal, I think there's always room. But I even point to before me, like, obviously there a bunch of people have done stuff, but I point to BBC Sherlock.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Where they kind of took it and did their thing with it. And it's like, I love that show. And I'm a Sherlockian. I've read all of them and I love them, It's like I love the book, It's like I love the short stories and the novels. They're so fantastic. And even when that first came out, I was kind of just like, well, what are you guys gonna do? And I watched it, I was just floored because it was so awesome, so good, and so clever and so great. So yeah, I think there's always room, for a lot of different tales to be brought back.
Well, it's interesting. We about a year or so did a podcast episode where we looked at the Frankenstein mythos and all the Frankenstein horror films. I mean, there are literally hundreds, probably thousands of Frankenstein horror films. And my hot take on the whole that specific subgenre was, we have yet to make the great Frankenstein horror film. That is until 2023, and I think kind of made the great. And I'm not just saying that to blow smoke. Yeah. I really think this is one of the more interesting takes on Frankenstein, and certainly it's contextualized in a modern way that's pretty different than a lot of takes on Frankenstein.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that means a lot.
Sorry.
I'm glad it connected with you. That means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So the one question we always ask our guests on the show, and we always ask, this is the Sophie's Choice. What is your all-time favorite horror film? But I'm going to ask this is a two-parter. What is your all-time horror film and why? And obviously, we'll assume that Frankenstein is your favorite Universal monster. Who is your second favorite Universal monster, and why?
Yeah. Okay. So, all-time favorite horror movie, original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Hell yes.
Yeah. I just love that movie. I think it's 3 horror movies in one.
Yep.
It has a iconic monster or villain, that's going on. Family drama. And I was talking to someone else about this, you don't even know who the main girl is until it's just till halfway through the movie, basically, right? Or
yeah.
And it's just working on so many different levels, and terrifying, and has its own messaging wrapped up in there, and it's just I think that movie works on such a high level that people don't even realize. It's you might watch it and feel it's crazy and messy, and there's no it's just no structure or anything to it, but there is, it's just, to me, the highest form of, or one of the highest forms of cinema is when you are able to hide all your constructions inside of an emotional roller coaster, right? Instead of that, where you forget and you're just kind of on an emotional ride. To me, Texas Chainsaw Massacre achieves that. So I think it's just an incredible movie, an incredible horror movie, my favorite one. Now I do want to point out, it's as much as I do love these Universal monster movies. I was I am for this movie I was pulling from the book. It was it's I made light what's it called, nods to the movie, the Universal movie, or whatever, just
right.
It's part of the cinema pantheon, so it's you can't not do that, right? But I was driving from the book itself. But if we're going to be looking at the Universal movies that are my favorite ones, I would probably say Wolfman.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Lon Chaney is so great. He's so tortured in that film. He's just he just feels like this just horrible, downtrodden, tortured, sweaty mess. I will say, and hopefully I'm sure you were too busy to do this, but when we were down in Austin for South by Southwest, we took the extra time to go 45 minutes southeast of Austin to Bastrop, Texas. and visit the Texas Chainsaw Massacre gas station,
Ooh.
and where they have the original van, which, I mean, I know it sounds dorky as hell, but it was so worth it. It was like horror movie bucket list checked.
That's amazing. I didn't even know. I should have looked that up. Damn.
Yeah. Next time, because I have a feeling you will be back at South by Southwest.
I hope so.
I think so.
Yeah.
I know we only have a couple more minutes, but and I know we touched on this lightly, but I still have not watched your first movie, which that is also on my horror movie bucket list to do. That's happening. But what's the future looking like after you get done with getting this baby birthed and out the door?
Yeah, well, I got another script. It's like the best way I can describe it is Juice meets Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
heck
yeah.
Yeah, imagine if two blurs found Gandalf's staff in a book of spells.
Oh, I love it. And Rakim is not too old to do the soundtrack. You bring him back.
Yeah.
The Juice soundtrack is one of the greatest soundtracks of all time, and it's a great film. It is a great film that I think has really stood the test of time. So I think if you can manage to mash those things up, I think that's it. That's a hit. So last question, where can folks see The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster starting on June 9th?
June 9th in theaters, baby. That's where you can catch it.
Oh, hell yeah.
The show out.
Absolutely. And then after that, we'll see it on VOD, Shudder, maybe.
Later in the year, yeah.
Okay. Well, Bomani J Story, thank you so much for joining. This has been really wonderful. And again, congratulations. I think this is a great film. I think folks deserve to see it. I think that if anyone has ever had any hesitancy about, old-timey monster movies, black and white films, this is a great way to sort of it's a great gateway to walk yourself into these classic stories. So good on you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, man. And I'm glad you enjoyed it and you connected with it. That it brings joy to my heart. I'm glad it's working on some level.
Heck yeah. All right. Thanks, Bomani.
Thank you.
The Masters of Horror.